Hey guys, what's going on? Vestigo here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. In this video, I'm gonna talk about top epics that I think they are no-brainer builds. It means you should build one of them if you get them. Before that, I wanna mention that I'll be starting a new free-to-play series as soon as this fusion ends because it is a hard fusion and I can't do both at once. This Brogni fusion. It will end in a week, and I'll be starting a new free to play account with a goal of getting Arbiter under 90 days. So make sure to subscribe. So, well, let's continue with our video. Number one in my list is Archmage Helmet. He is a Doom Tower champion. You can get him from completing Doom Tower secret rooms in normal difficulty, and he is special because of A2 and this A3 right here. His A2 is a AoE stun in a 3-turn cooldown, and he has increased speed, increased crit rate, and increased crit damage on all allies in a 3-turn cooldown. He also has this aura that gives you 70% speed in arena battles. He also has this passive that immune to the turn meter decrease effects. Sorry. He has a good amount of HP, good amount of defense, and very fast champion. Continue with the new champion Giscard, the Sigiled. He looks like basically a legendary decrease attack A1, provoke and shield, provoke all enemies and shield on a 3-turn cooldown A2, and A3 with increased defense and increased attack on a 3-turn cooldown. He also has this passive that fills this champion's turn meter by 15 whenever they are attacked by an enemy under provoke debuff or increase attack buff. Also has that defense in faction creeps. Number 3 is Stagnite. Stagnite is a well-known champion. Decrease speed A1, decrease defense and decrease attack, 95% chance in a 3-turn cooldown. He is very good in basically everywhere. You put him in a shield set and you have a shield, decrease attack, decrease defense, and you can run him everywhere. Good amount of HP, good amount of defense, and very speed, very fast champion. That's it for this faction, but I also want to mention to Ursula the Mourner. Ursula is a very good reviver. Revive all dead allies with 75% HP, then fills their turn meter by 50%, also places 60% increased defense buff and strength buff. She has increased ally speed in Doom Tower and attack all enemies, place a decrease attack on all enemies and increase attack on all allies. Let's move on to High Elves. High Elves has a lot of good champions, like the first one is Rearguard. Rearguard is an awesome champion because of this ability right here. Attack all enemies, damage increases according to enemy's max HP. This ability right here can deal like 2 million damage. And he has an attack 4 times at random. Each hit has a 60% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Each hit also has a 60% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 25%. Also decreased defense on A1. He has a good amount of attack. Actually, he has a very high amount of base attack. A little bit slow though, but this is what this is. Moving on to Tyrell. Tyrell actually is very decent champion because of all of his kit is absolutely very nice. You can use him everywhere because of he is good in clan boss because of decrease attack A1, decrease defense AoE, decrease defense A2 in a 4-turn cooldown though, and decrease turn meter by 50% and the 2-turn stun debuff. You don't see this 2-turn stun debuff usually. Actually, I don't know if any other champion has that ability, has that stun for 2 turns. And 25% defense in all battles aura. That's it for this faction, but we have some honorable mentions here. Verges with ally protection. He is very good in Doom Tower, in Clan Boss. Basically, he is a carry. And Tenisal. Tenisal also is very good champion because of this ability right here. Increase defense buff in a 3-turn cooldown and a big heal. And attack all enemies, decrease the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn. So let's continue to Sacred Orders. We have a lot of good choices here. First one is Godseeker Eniri. She is a void epic and she basically is a real carry in everywhere. Attack one enemy, heals the ally with the lowest HP by 5%. Attack all enemies, heal all allies by 15% of their max HP, then decrease the duration of all buffs on all enemies by 1 turn and increase the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn. She also has revive any dead ally, then fill their turn meter by 50% and reset the cooldown of all their skills. She also has that passive increase the amount of healing ally received by 10%, and if an ally is about to get killed by a fatal hit, preempts that hit and instantly place a revive on death buff on them for 1 turn before the damage is taken. In a 4-turn cooldown, he is incredible. Moving on, we have Deacon Armstrong. He is one of the new champs too. He is Spirit Affinity, good HP, good defense, fast champion. He has A1 Leech. He has A2 with a 100% chance of landing decreased defense debuff on all enemies on 3 turns cooldown, and fill the turn meter of all allies by 15% and decrease the turn meter of all allies by 15%, and then grant an extra turn. Increase ally speed in all battles by 90%. He is incredible actually. He can be used in arena as a 3 champion in 1 actually. He has increased speed aura, he has decreased defense and speed booster. What else do you want from a champion? Moving on, we don't have any other choices in this faction, but we have a lot of honorable mentions to give. One of them is Mordecai. He is one of the champions that you need to collect fragments in order to fuse Bragni. He has 75% books to 100% chance of placing HP burn and place increase attack buff on all allies for 3 turns in a 4-turn cooldown, and has a 75% chance of decreasing 100 books to 100% chance of decreasing the turn meter of all enemies by 15%. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%. Kinda like mini energize of Lysandra. And we have Phoenix here. He has the hardest hitting A1 in the game with block revival. And Sanguinia is a pretty good champion with this ability right here. Attack one enemy, has a 75% chance of transferring all debuffs from, basically is a cleanse. Remove all debuffs from all allies except this champion, and places a block debuff and continuous heal on all allies in a 3-turn cooldown. Moving on to Barbarian faction, we have Armina. Armina is special because of this A2, attack all enemies, has a 100% chance of placing decreased defense debuff, still 7.5% of the turn meter from targets under decreased defense. Also decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 20%, has a 75% boost to 100% chance of placing stun debuff for 1 turn on the enemies who have their turn meter fully depleted. Also fills this champion's turn meter by 10% each time an enemy receives a stun debuff. He has a very good A1 too, stun on A1. Attack one enemy, has a 45% chance of placing stun debuff for 1 turn. Moving on, we have Arakin the Fat. He is also one of the new champions. He has HP burn and 2 poisons on his A2 on a 3-turn cooldown, and increase crit rate, increase crit damage of all allies. Then all allies except this champion will attack one enemy. Basically it is an ally attack and in a 4-turn cooldown, and this deflects 20% of all incoming damage to allies, and decrease defense A1 too. He is a decent champion. Moving on to Skytouch Shaman. Skytouch Shaman is incredible. She is the best healer in the game in my opinion. Attack all enemy, heals 15% of the damage inflicted if this champion has less than 50% HP. Boosts this champion's turn meter by 20% instead if this champion has a 50% HP or higher. And with the A2, she has a cleanser, then place a revive on death and block debuff on all allies for 2 turns in a 4-turn cooldown. She is good counter against Torments and Hegemons in an immunity set, absolutely. Also has these debuffs landing on her. That's a little bit bad, but she is so powerful. She has also increased ally HP in all battles by 25%. So I think that's it for this faction. A quick shout out to High Cartoon. High Cartoon is one of the free champions that you get in, I think that was for day 13, with increased turn meter and increased speed A2, and attack all enemies has a chance of decrease the turn meter of enemies. Increase ally speed in all battles by 19%. She's decent champion. I use her everywhere. Well, not everywhere, basically in Arena and Spider. Moving on to Orgrim tribes. Next champion is Ugo. Ugo also is one of the new champions added to the game. She has A1 Leech, A2 decreased defense, 100% chance of landing, and 75% chance of landing block buffs on a 3-turn cooldown. She also has this weird mechanic, removes all heal reduction debuff from all allies, then removes one random debuff from all allies, then heals all allies by 20% of this champion max HP. If all allies are dead, revive them with a 50% HP, then fills their turn meter by 50% instead. She also has this passive, place a 30% increase speed buff and block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn, whenever this champion is the last living ally in. Continuing with Skullcrusher. Skullcrusher, we all know him. He is the one of the 3 champions who has the counter attack buff in a 3-turn cooldown. She's the only epic though. The other 2 ones are Martyr and Valkyrie, which they are legendaries. She also has decrease the duration of all debuffs on this champion by 1 turn at the start of each turns. So basically what this means if he get any debuffs, he basically shakes that debuffs. But if he gets stuns, for example, she shake that stun and attack the enemy, but the cooldowns are still not resetting. Moving on to Manitors. Manitor is very decent champion for progression and also for unkillable teams. He is I'm after him. I am basically after one Manitor. He has decreased attack if crit on A1. He has attack one enemy, fully depletes the target's turn meter, fill this champion's turn meter equal to amount of target loss. Basically steals the turn meter of the target. And also unkillable buff and block debuffs on for 2 turns on a 5-turn cooldown. And that's it also for this faction, but I do want to mention the Cloud, the Beast Feather. Because of this ability, he has increased speed and increased accuracy for all allies. Basically 2 or 3 champion in the game basically has this ability. And also want to mention to Crush. Crush is one of the daily rewards that you get in, I don't know, day 180, I think. He has A1 Leech, decrease attack and decrease crit damage A2 in a 100% chance of landing in a 4-turn cooldown. This is why he is so good, because he basically puts 2 continuous heal, one big version, one little version of continuous heal on all allies. So moving on to Lizardmans. Lizardman basically lacks so many champions, but I do want to mention to Aox the Rememberer, because he has a A1 with a poison, 2 poisons, I guess. No, 1 poison. Very low chance of placing though. It is 30%. And A2 with a heal, and A3 with a decreased attack and decreased crit damage. He also has this increased duration of 2 random debuffs on the attacker by 1 turn when attacks. This passive occurs once per hit. So this is why I wanted to mention him. Next one I want to mention is Jarek. Jarek has A1 with decreased attack and A2 with ally protection and increased defense in a 3-turn cooldown. He also has this place a 15% continuous heal buff on an ally, on one ally for 1 turn whenever An ally loses 20% of their max HP in one hit. He is good for clan boss and faction wars, I guess. Moving on to Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers has so little amount of good epics. The best epic in this faction, in my opinion, is still Skull, because he has a 2-hitter A1 with a poison. He has a cleanse with a heal, cleanse with a big heal in a 3-turn cooldown, and increase defense buff on all allies, and a little heal on a 4-turn cooldown. I do want to mention to Basher. With the release of new Doom Tower, he is one of the best champions for the new dragon. He has weaken A1, attack all enemies, increase the cooldown of all of the targets skill by 2 turns. Basically, this is the ability why he is so good for the new dragon. Attack 4 times at random, has a 75% can be booked to 100% chance of placing a block buffs debuff for 2 turns. He is a solid champion. I also do want to mention to Fane. Fane is very good for clan boss. Attack one enemy, has a 100% chance of placing 2 poisons, and decrease attack buff. I decrease attack debuff for 2 turns, and A3 with a 100% chance of placing decreased defense and weaken debuff for 3 turns. And A3 is a 3-time hitter, and in the 4-turn cooldown. Moving on to Orcs. Orcs has nice epics. First champion in this faction is Duck the Pierced. He has decreased attack and decreased defense, 100% chance of landing on a 3-turn cooldown on his A2. On his A3, he has a place a provoke debuff on one target. Also has a 75% chance of placing 2 provokes to 2 other targets, and also will place a reflect damage and unkillable buff on himself. He has A1 with a 40% chance of placing decreased accuracy, damage based on defense. He is very good champion. I think you should build one even if you have a Tyrell, because basically he will help you in faction wars too. Next one is Seer, basically because of this ability right here, Karma Burn. She burns the waves like they were nothing. Basically what she does is removes all buffs of your team, then removes all buffs of the enemy team, then wrecks the enemy team in a 4-turn cooldown. Good team synergy with Muslim Mage or Sifi. She has a A2 with an increased crit rate and weaken on a 3-turn cooldown, and A1 with a chance of granting extra turn. Good amount of HP, good attack, fast champion. Moving on to Vrask. Basically, Vrask and the Scottish Shaman is the biggest healers in this game because of passive healing abilities. Heals all allies by 10% of this champion's max HP when he inflicts the critical hit. So you build him with 100% crit rate and 80,000 HP. Heck, even some people build him in 100,000 HP, and you get heal every time he inflicts a critical hit. He also has a 33% increased defense in all dungeons aura. Next one, I do want to mention to Zargala. Zargala is a decreased defense champion, but she also is a nuker. In this, because of this ability right here, attack all enemy 3 times. After the first hit, has a 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. This ability is on the 4 turn cooldown, and this ability attack one enemy instantly activates the crack armor disability skill if the target is killed by this attack. She is a hard hitter, she is a debuffer, but I wouldn't build one if I already had a decreased defense champion and a nuker. I want to mention to Sandlash Survivor because she can be used in the teams like go second teams in the arena. She is very good in clan boss too. And this aura right here, defense in all battles by 25%. She also has this A2 with the attack all enemies, decrease the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn, increase the duration of all ally buffs for 1 turn. She is very good in clan boss. Demon Spawn. Allure. Allure is a man. She is a no-brainer build. Everyone should build her if you get her. Unless you have a Lysandra and a couple of cold hearts. She makes a mockery of Fire Knight. She's so good in Fire Knight. Basically, every dungeon fight, she's so good because of this A1. Attack 3 times at random, decrease the target's turn meter by 25% on each critical hit. So you build him with a crit rate and good accuracy. You are done. You are done. Moving on. I do want to mention Achak the Vendren because of she is one of the new champions and she is very good in my opinion. Place a block debuff and strengthen on a 4 turn cooldown on all allies and attack all enemies, has a 90% chance of placing a freeze debuff or HP burn debuff. So in most cases it is a freeze because most enemies in this game, most PvE content in this game has more attack than defense. So it is on the 3 turn cooldown. She also has this passive heal all allies by 5% of their max HP every time an enemy under the HP burn debuff gets turned. Fill the turn meter of all allies by 10% every time an enemy under freeze debuff gets a turn. Also has a 25% increased defense in all battles. She is incredible. Next one is Umbral, the Enchantress. Because of this ability, she is awesome in arena as a debuffer CC champion. Attack all enemies, 100% chance of placing provoke and unkillable on herself. Sorry. But the negative thing about this champion is she also places a block cooldown skill on herself. But if you build her with that mastery from the defense tree, and when she gets a hit, she will remove this block cooldown and she can do this A2 right here. Attack all enemies, has a 80% boost to the 100% chance of placing block buffs debuff for 3 turns. This is very good for Ice Golem. She is awesome for Ice Golem and Arena. Moving on, Padma is a good champion, A1 with a 100% chance of decreased attack. Erenes is a good poisoner, I wanted to mention this champion, but nobody has this champion in this time, at the time this video recording. Moving on to Undead Hordes. We have a lot of options here, but we will go with the Vogoth. Vogoth is a unit, absolutely incredible champion, at triple attacker on A1, A2 with a provoke and decrease attack AoE in a 3-turn cooldown. And what makes this champion incredible is his passives actually. Whenever this champion is attacked, heal all allies by 50% of the damage received, 25% against the bosses. Second passive is when attacked, place a leech debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. If the attacker is under provoke debuff placed by this champion, also has a 70% chance of increasing the cooldown of the random skill on the attacker by 2 turns. Occurs 1 per attack. He is absolutely incredible. Moving on to Mausoleum Mage. Has remove all debuffs from all allies, then heals and some other mechanics. Also has 3 awesome buffs on a 3-turn cooldown. Increase crit rate, increase defense, and block debuffs. Also has a decreased speed A1, good HP, good attack, and very fast champion. You can build him with a shield set and he's awesome. Next champion is Seeker. Seeker is an incredible champion. He has a double hitter A1 with a 50% chance of provoking. He has a 30% turn meter field for all allies and increase attack buff for all allies for 2 turns, and then grants an extra turn. He also has this passive which puts increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns when hit with a critical hit. He also has increased ally defense in arena battles by 30%. He is incredible in clan boss because he unlocks the opportunity for you to go in the 2-to-1 ratio, and he's awesome in arena 2 PvP content. Honorable mention to Gorgrab. Sorry. He has filled the turn meter of all allies by 15% and place an increased attack buff on all allies in a 3-turn cooldown, and revive all allies with a 25% HP and a 25% turn meter. Also has increased ally speed in arena by 23%. A1 has a steal 1 random buff from the enemy. Good amount of base stats. A little bit low in speed, but he can be used as a level 50 till you get your arbiter. He is like a mini arbiter in my opinion. Also Dark Elhain. She is a nice nuker and a good counter to for what was Torment, and very good in Ice Golem. And that's it for this faction. Moving on to, oh, we missed one. Dark Elves. Madame Ceres. The one and only Madame Ceres. Remove all buffs from all enemies, then place them decrease attack and decrease defense on a 4-turn cooldown. She is incredible. She is the best champion for PvP. She is absolutely incredible. Also steals a random buffs. Chances steal a random buff from an enemy, from all enemies, and then place a block debuff on himself, on herself and the team. Also has a chance to place, if the buff is removed, she will place True Fear on the enemy. Also has a fear on A1, And that's it. Good amount of HP, good speed, good defense. She is the queen of PvP. Moving on to Sylar. Sylar is another incredible champion with A1 AoE, A2 decrease accuracy, A2 100% chance of landing in a 3-turn cooldown, and decrease turn meter of all enemies by 40%, and decrease speed debuff on all enemies on a 4-turn cooldown. She is incredible in PvP, arena, and spider basically. She's nice, and a good amount of HP, attack, and fast. Moving on to Night Revenants. Miscreated monster. Man, do I have to say anything about him? A1 with a stun and decreased defense, A2 with a big shield and AoE stun, 50% chance of landing stun debuff for 1 turn, and place a shield buff on all allies for 3 turns equal to 25% of the damage inflicted. He makes a joke of spider. With a A3 in a 4-turn cooldown, ally protection and continuous heal on himself and all allies, ally protection, sorry. And the passive, place a fear debuff on the attacker for 1 turn whenever an ally attacked while under an ally protection. And arena battle 33% HP. He's awesome. He is awesome. Next one is Doom Priest. Because of this ability, heal all allies by 7.5% of their HP and removes 1 random debuff from them at the start of this champion's turn. She also has increased attack buff on all allies and increased crit rate. She is, by the release of the Doom Tower, she becomes very important. She used in the clan boss for affinity friendly comps. She is incredible. Very good support. Next one is Skullcrown with 2 AoEs, hard hitter, and what makes her effective in the arena is this ability. Place an unkillable buff on this champion for 1 turn every time their HP drops below 20%. And this passive works whenever she is in the team with Snesha. She can be used as a campaign farmer. She is incredible in arena defense, and she can be a nuker in arena. She hits very hard, and she also has this passive, this aura. I literally forgot about this. Increase ally speed in arena battles by 23%. She is incredible. Moving on to next faction. This faction not have a lot of champions, but all of them are good. But my choices are Rearguard Sergeant, because she has ally protection and continuous heal on all allies on a 3-turn cooldown, and also decrease attack debuff on all enemies on a 3-turn cooldown, and decrease defense debuff A1. She is very good in a clan boss in a double ally protection teams. I think she is worth building. Next one is Melga Steel Griddle with shield and continuous heal on all allies in a 3-turn cooldown, and the revive 2 random allies with 20% HP and 20% turn meter. Also place a shield buff on the revived ally for 2 turns equal to 30% of their max HP. She is very good champion for faction wars, for everywhere you need to some protection. She is there for Doom Tower as well. I do want to mention to this champion Toragi the Frog, but I don't think he is a must build champion. He has a decrease attack A1, provoke on the A2, and all these buffs on the A3, which he puts all of them on your allies. He also has this passive when attacked has a 50% chance of placing 5% poison debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. Occurs once per hit. That's it, guys. There you have it. Please subscribe if you haven't already and hit that like button because it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. And let me know in the comments down below who is your favorite epic champion in this game. So thank you for watching till the end and take care, guys.